this is a little bit different than how I usually teach essays. If you were not aware, I teach my essays in live format. There was a point in time in my life where I was organized to be able to do them every Saturday evening. I don't have that kind of time anymore. However, if you have been like engaging with me on TikTok specifically, you would see me read these essays live or a part of these essays, and we'd sit down and work on them together. I find that it is not fun nor engaging as an audience member to have something read to you if you cannot also see it. Um, so instead of reading Information Anarchy to you, and I also like, it's nice to be read to, but that's available on Spotify. Like I could do that anytime. You can have that anytime. So while I'm here, I would rather walk us through like the basic theses of Information Anarchy as I've like collected my thoughts, and see your questions in real time. So anytime you have a question, stop me. I'm not going to forget what I have to say. And it's also already written out. Like you can go see the rest. I don't care how far we get in the essay because it's there for your personal study. We're going to walk it through like bite by bite size. I'm here also on TikTok. And that's primarily because I want to make sure that Ujima Boston gets like a nice big technological spotlight. Something I say all the time is that your attention is lucrative, especially if you are in the United States. And if you're watching from the United States, you should pay very close attention to how you use your screen time and what you use it on. And I have a big spotlight of attention. So I want to make sure that I'm always spotlighting organizations that are making the world closer to a world I feel comfortable living in. In a world I feel comfortable bringing children into. Y'all, I just got a niece and she's the best thing in the world. And every time I look at that child, I'm like, I got to go so much harder. So the questions of this essay that we're starting out with, can you all see these? And then TikTok, you're going to be here with your good listening ears because I'm going to read them to you. What is information anarchy? That's question one. Question two is, what does that mean in terms of how we place value on information? What does information anarchy mean in terms of how we place value on information? And then question three, how do we find value if there's no monetary exchange? How do we find information valuable if there's no monetary exchange involved? Okay. So I'm going to start drawing this out. Okay. This was from the tech check we did earlier. Oh no. I write in cursive. I know that sometimes that can be a little bit difficult, because not being able to read cursive isn't something that we teach in schools anymore. It's a form of illiteracy. But I think it's important, so I'm going to write as clearly as possible. We have information anarchy. These are two separate words. We need to define them. So what is information? Tell me. You can unmute yourself. You can use the chat. If you're on TikTok, you can use your chat. What is information?
Facts about a certain topic, based on the type of information it is.
Facts about it. I'll call it a categorized topic. Someone else said facts connected to make meaning. So I see facts again. Facts connected to make meaning. What else? What else is information? There are many right answers, and I would like a couple. I see also from TikTok a collection of data. Anybody else?
Knowledge as it is like delivered.
Oh, that's two. That's knowledge and delivery. So you're saying delivery is also a part of information. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
I would agree with that. I'd agree with that a lot. I'm going to start that because I want to come back to that. I see someone that said, an internet friend called Julie said, information is food for the brain. Anybody else? What's information? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see the Zoom chat. I also see a mutual understanding about a topic, words disseminated to a group to explain a topic, shared knowledge, data we receive from others. I'm going to throw more of these. Was someone about to say something?
Yeah, but I think some of what's in the chat covers it. I was gonna say, like, accepted truths within like a group of people or society about a specific
Oh,
topic.
hold on. Accepted truths. I like that. That's good. Okay.
I would
Is there
say,
anything oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
input from outside the self.
Input from outside the self. Can information also come from inside the self?
That's what I'm thinking about right now. I'm not sure if I would think of that
On a
as
friend.
information or wisdom.
Information or wisdom. Is there a difference between the two?
I don't know.
Could we call this so here's a question I want us to hang on to. I'm gonna title this question to come back to. Could this be wisdom anarchy? This thing called information anarchy that we're about to continue to talk about, could this be wisdom anarchy? At the end of hold on to that question. At the end of this, I'm going to ask us this question again as we think about what information is, what wisdom is, and the ways that those may or may not be the same thing. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you so many questions and none of them are going to be rhetorical. Do we have, is this a good smattering of what information is or could be? Do we have any more that we feel like are not on here that would need to be?
So you're learning, it's kind of hard to find the words for it. Getting facts, and you're learning about something, you're giving facts and stuff that you could, an information that you can learn about something you don't know about, like how somebody
Okay.
else is or something.
So learning is also information.
Yeah, I kind of think, yeah.
I definitely think that. I didn't know that that's a thing I thought until you said it like that. But I definitely think that. Thank you for sharing. That's really cool. There are hands up. I can't see whose hands up. Be bold and speak.
I was just gonna highlight the people who are in the chat also saying, I have something from Imani saying feelings and emotions are informations from within. And then Andrea said, I feel like information can come from within and outside the self, but they inform each other. Question mark.
That wisdom can come from inside and outside the self, but they inform each other. Question mark. These are all wonderful questions to consider. And I'm not asking this because I know the right answer, or even that I have a thesis on what is or is not information. I did this because there are so many different kinds of input that we have access to that could or could not be information, and that could or could not be useful to us at any given point in time. I never would have thought of 60% of this stuff. And the essay doesn't talk about all of these different facets of information. This was a really lovely exercise. For the sake of time, I'm going to keep going because we have 2 more questions, at least to touch. So what's anarchy? Because this is a webinar, seminar, something about information anarchy. What is anarchy?
A lack of hierarchy.
What else?
I would say it's like a departure from established order.
A departure from an established order. What else? Oh, someone in TikTok said, in TikTok, hilarious, a release of traditional power systems. Other people have said madness, an acknowledgement outside of binaries, egalitarian citizenship at its base. This is very interesting. Let's see, what did I hear? Anarchy is madness. Maybe a departure not just from established order, but from universal norms. I'll say in the essay, Information Anarchy, we also hear from these two people. I want to read these quotes personally. Let's see. What is anarchy, simply put, is a society without centralized human hierarchy or leaders. And that's the political definition of anarchy. But I don't want to tout this definition as the thing that is most correct or is most useful. I get into, the terms anarchy. I talk a little bit about Wikipedia because I love Wikipedia, even though it is very flawed. I still love it. I think it's a great feat of humanity. I want to highlight here, ready? Indigenous peoples across the globe. I'm going to zoom us in. Indigenous peoples across the globe have been practicing anarchy with generational peace. And I would be remiss to exclude such world making from this analysis. The words of Cleve Benally, Dine, multifaceted artist and organizer, for distinction, I would add that an anarchist would pronounce there is no authority above yourself. An indigenous anarchist would offer there is no authority but nature. Then the words of Brandon Benally, a Navajo Hopi organizer, being Dine could be considered anarchist because we never had chiefs. We didn't have a hierarchy. It was always horizontal. Benally said, communism and anarchism derived ideology from Franciscan missionaries who came here in the 1500s and 1600s and studied indigenous societies. And you have Engels, Marx, Bakunin reading the journals of these religious figures and how these religious figures describe indigenous societies at that time. Okay. So then, if anarchy also has elements of nature and natural rule, or at least could from indigenous perspectives, which are ones I always like to pay attention to, given that I live on colonized land twice over, being from the United States and being from Sierra Leone. I also think about anarchy as a sincere lack of human, as a sincere lack of human capital H, a sincere lack of human capital H. Have we heard of posthumanism? A little bit? At all? Is posthumanism ringing a bell? It's something that I talk about all the time on TikTok. TikTok live anyways. It's a little too much for a video. Does posthumanism ring any bells?
Is it
But-
oh sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna ask, by capital H human, do you mean like structures of society? Like not what is within us, what we have like created?
Did
If
you
lowercase.
Well, that's a really philosophical question, because did we create human? I do think that we created ways to be human that are acceptable and ways to be human that are not acceptable, and thus will lead to inhumane conditions, right? Because that's what we say when people are getting abused by the state, when people are getting genocided by the state, slow or fast. Slow terms in terms of like economic warfare, poverty, the implication of disease, letting disease spread unmitigated. Slower forms of genocide, and then there's fast twitch genocide, which is when you just drop bombs indiscriminately because you can, right? That's inhumane treatment. That's kind of what I'm saying when I say capital H, that there is a human or humane way to be treated that is rights-based. And then there is inhumane ways to be treated, which is essentially as a colonized person. So posthumanism is it's a framework in African radical tradition and others, but I learned it from the African radical tradition. Has anyone engaged with it, or can we spitball what it might be, what this might be talking about? Posthumanism.
I feel like what's coming up for me is the idea of kind of like similar to like post-Anthropocene thinking, like ways of decentralizing the human in the way that like the capital H human has taken over many institutional spaces, like a reversal of that.
a reversal of the current hierarchies that we have in place?
Yes.
That sounds, hold on. Posthumanism.
Or I guess not a reversal, but like a movement in a different direction. Because I feel like reversal kind of implies like a going back to something before. And I don't know if posthumanism believes that necessarily, but I'm not quite sure.
Subversion might be the word that we're looking for here.
Oh, yes.
For the purposes of reestablishing a kind, like a humanity rooted in love.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say for the exploration of little h humanity. Doesn't that sound kind of similar to what we said about anarchy? Lacks of hierarchy, departures from established order, a little bit mad, departures from universal norms. So these things are related. Posthumanism as a reversal or a distinct depart, maybe a subversion from order for the exploration of humanity. I want to take us back up here to what is information. If you asked what is information in like a collegiate setting, what would we expect the right answer to be? Do emotions count as information in a collegiate setting?
No.
Can you cite like the vibe? How does your can you cite how your body feels interacting with a piece of primary text, quote unquote?
Mm-mm.
If you're a colonized person of any sort, if you've had to deal with colonization, and maybe you're connected with the history of your ancestral groups, have you ever had the experience of reading a source that is wrong? Like a reading of witnessing your particular people get involved and used in the propaganda of the empire? Is that an experience? I've had that experience. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes? I'm not asking
Yeah.
metaphorically. Yes. Okay. I see some in the chat. Yes. Yes. You feel in your body, you feel it in your physical body that the words that you're reading are incorrect, right? Like your very bones are like, that's not what happened. Lately, I've been seeing on Twitter the recirculation of a clip from Avatar: The Last Airbender in which Aang is in Fire Nation school, and the Fire Nation's like, we defeated their army, and he's like, they didn't have a fucking army, and they're like, quiet you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes, exactly.
what if a part of information anarchy is also thinking about wisdom as information? What would wisdom anarchy be? This is such a cool question. This essay, I didn't think of this question. Oh, wow. Thank you for thinking with me. So we have like 10 more minutes. I want to stop here for questions. We can like touch on the other points of the essay, but I definitely want to talk about what we talked about here. What are these relationships between information and anarchy and moving towards forms of being human, structures, systems for being human that are a subversion of order in order to explore a humanity that is amorphous and kind? What do we think? That was a lot of questions. Just whatever you're thinking, just say it. I want to know.
Are you asking us to define information anarchy as like this broader thing?
I'm asking for your thoughts. So if you want to define some terms, you can.
Something I'm curious about is like with the idea of like wisdom and information, maybe being a little bit like more interconnected than I thought going into this talk. I'm wondering like, so with anarchy, if you're rejecting something in like in this realm of rejecting certain types of information, then that's leading me to think that like there has to be some sort of separation in thought, or not has to, but that there might be some sort of separation in thought between the information and wisdom, so that you know what to reject.
Okay. Hold on. Someone said in the chat that they're lost with the terminology. So I want to back up and like thread these things together that we've already talked about. And then I want to talk about the question that you just asked, Rachel. So we started out literally just defining terms. Information, anarchy. What is information and what's anarchy? I know this looks a little nuts right now. TikTok, I'm going to turn you around. But when we started talking about information, it started when we were, sorry, I know you can hear this, Mike. There we go. We started filling it out with things like data, collections of data. Information is knowledge. Maybe information hinges on delivery. I would agree with that sentiment because I'm learning by way of being a public educator how many different kinds of ways I need to present information so that people can get it. I'm so mad that I have to start making video essays. I don't like recording my face. I don't like that my face and voice are public record. That is bad for business. I have lived in blissful, discreet anonymity. One of the organizers here knows me from college. Nobody knew me in college except for my like very, very bright hair, because I didn't have an Instagram. I didn't have Facebook. I didn't have Twitter. I had no desire to disseminate my face and voice on public record. But knowledge delivery matters a lot in a day and age where the majority of an audience that watches me under 25 learned to learn from video, learned to learn from screens. That's a media literacy and a kind of literacy that I didn't previously know existed, the ability to learn in video format. My elders have me read them the news because they're very good at long form audio format. The people that watch me that are like 50s and 60s, they're begging me to like print essays and have them able to read them on physical paper because they're very good at literary format. So I have to figure out how to make sure that information is digestible via delivery. Information is also about connection, connected to make meaning. Like it's not just the data points themselves or the collection of data, right? It's the way that we're able to thread these things together to make, I don't know, canyons. Look, I made a little picture because of the way that I threaded things together. Those are poorly drawn stickmen, but I think that we're getting the point. Information also can be learning. We talked about input and output. Outside and inside of yourself. Does input from inside of yourself, is that information? Is that wisdom? Are information and wisdom the same thing? Then we were like, okay, we've defined a lot of information. There are many different facets of what information could be. And then we started defining anarchy. Anarchy can be defined as, not totally, but as a lack of hierarchy, a specific departure away from those hierarchies, from an established order, a departure away from universal norms. This is, I would say, these two ideas, this is like a lot headier in terms of what information can be, but these two ideas are the first like 2 paragraphs of the essay that I could have just read to you, but we sounded it out. This has been really lovely. Anarchy can also be madness. Anarchy can be a separation from what we consider sane or like of reasonable mind or thought. Anarchy can also be present in nature, where nature is like chaotic. Isn't like one of the natures of the universe is that it's like chaotic and spontaneous by design. There's an anarchy there. However, the natural rule, there are like systems that govern the world that humans cannot create or destroy, but only change. Anarchy, we talked about, I took a detour into posthumanism because if I think hard enough, I always end up at posthumanism, the exploration of what happens after these systems crumble. So I always like to say, the world that we have within capitalism, something is coming after this inevitably. Capitalism is actively crumbling. What happens next is up to us. But like capitalism is done for, truly, I think in my lifetime, this shit is shanty. Posthumanism a reversal, a subversion, a divorce, a departure, a sayonara, a bye Felicia of the order of exploration. The current order of exploration is that you go to K through 12 school or end up in prison somewhere along the way or dead. And then you go to higher education or a very specific job and end up in prison or dead. And then you work for your whole life, and you're supposed to also find out about yourself as a human being in that time or end up in prison or dead. That's our current order of exploration. So what would different systems, what kind of humans would be under those things? Those were the terms. Does that make a little more sense as to what we talked about? So if we think about what it means to have spaces on the internet, for example, the reason I wrote this essay, I'll say, I probably should have said this at the top, but the reason I wrote this essay is because we don't have spaces, a lot of spaces on the internet to engage in radical thought, particularly Black radical thought, revolutionary radical thought, without paying. And that's a huge problem for a great many reasons. So I wrote this essay to say, hey, I'm going to do this for free until I end up in prison or die. But this is what I've chosen to do for work. And I'm doing this for free because information, there's so many different kinds of information, and I have a lot of power in the information that I disseminate from being up on a stage. I don't want to choose this time that I have up on stage to brainwash you into buying things that you don't need with my very lucrative delivery. That's why I wrote the essay. But thinking in this space, what is information anarchy? What is a departure away from systems of the ways that we interact with information, which is not just about collecting data or connecting the dots between those data points, but also literally learning and wisdom and feeling in your body what is and is not true. Does that make more sense, Lara? I think that was you that asked. Are you saying that yes, it makes more sense? Overall, like a general poll for everybody watching in their various enclaves, does that make sense, what we talked about?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
can you
just
hear
want to
me?
read one question that is in the chat. Are you saying that information anarchy could be different ways which we share collective knowledge?
Yes. That's phenomenal. That's exactly what I'm saying. Information anarchy can be different ways of spreading collective knowledge. Actually, this is something I do a lot on TikTok to make sure that we increase retention. When we leave these spaces, we can remember what we talked about. I would love everybody that has access to a keyboard to type out that thesis. That's a thesis statement, and it's a damn good one. Information anarchy is what did you say it was? Can you repeat the question? Say that again.
The question is, are you saying that information anarchy could be different ways which we share collective knowledge? And I think that's from, I think it's pronounced Iara.
Thank you. That's a great way to say that. Information anarchy can be different ways to share to share collective knowledge. Oh, I put that in a direct message. Let's go to everyone. If you can type that out, please do. Yes. Okay, there was another question, right?
Yeah, I had a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I understand, like, in terms of information anarchy being like different ways we share collective knowledge. I just am interested in how this relates to like rejecting like certain frameworks on how to exist as a human. Like I'm still trying to see that, like, this connection. Like I'm almost there. I'm wondering if, like, you're saying removing certain like material barriers like cost and like, or like capital and things of that nature, and allowing it to be a lot more accessible is like a way of understanding or a way of like rejecting certain ideas of like worth and things of that nature. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm trying to still like see a connection between like I'm just trying to see more of a connection to how this is rejecting a certain framework of how to be a human being.
I think
You know what I
said
mean?
you literally said you answered your own question in the thought process. You sounded it out.
Okay.
I'm about to
Okay.
repeat what you said back to you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
So you phrase this all like a question. I'm just going to phrase these as statements. I'm not saying these statements are true or not true. I'm saying I'm presenting us a thesis statement that I bored from your question, which is what literally just happened, right? What was the last thesis statement I mentioned? I already forgot. Somebody remind me. What is it? Information anarchy is a collection. What is it?
Different
How
ways
does
to share, use, and apply collective knowledge.
different ways to share? Ooh, that's different. Share, use, and apply. Share, use, and
Yeah,
apply.
someone
I
put
want
that
to add
iteration
that.
in there. I like that.
Yeah, information anarchy can be different ways to share, use, and apply collective knowledge. Okay, so now the question is posthumanism. How does this way we can share, use, and apply collective knowledge relate to the idea of posthumanism? So, in answering your own question, what's your name? So, the person that asked the question, I didn't get to see it.
My name is Venus.
Venus. Hi, it's nice to meet you. So, what
Nice to
Venus
meet you
said,
as
as Venus sounded it out, what are your, can I use they?
Yeah.
Okay. What Venus says as they sounded it out was, I'm uncertain of the connection, but if I could hypothesize, which you did a great job of doing, is a departure from systems. Hold on, TikTok. I need to turn you around so you can see what I'm writing. Is a departure of systems, which is what anarchy is. That's what we said anarchy is, right? Is a departure of systems, is that connected to human? Because there's this post, as in we want to get, I don't even want to say away, we want to get beyond, we want to get beyond the idea of human. So are these things connected? I think they might be connected by worth. You asked, is it connections of worth? But I'm going to say it like a thesis statement. I think they're connected by worth. Look, a little explanation point, connected by worth. TikTok, we talk about this a lot. But what are the different ways that you can be human? How do you know? How do you know in this society that you're being treated humanely, like a human? What do you have? And then this is for anybody to answer. I'm asking TikTok because I ask them this all the time. Ooh, power, agency. Attention. Oh, attention.
I just have a question. I don't know.
Wait,
I'm just curious, like, how can Black people, I'm an Afro pessimist at the core too, and so I struggle with how Black people can even be perceived or understand humanness. And so I guess I'm wondering, like, for Black people in particular, how do we engage or navigate this question?
Can I actually add to that? Okay, can I actually add to this? Because I think that's a really good point. Like, I'm doing work on like utopian studies, and like in some stuff that I've read, like your existence as a Black person is already sort of regarded as like outside of certain conceptions of what it means to be a human, like especially due to like enslavement and like regarding Black individuals as property. But I think when it comes to moving beyond like what it means to be a human, I'm wondering if like the way Black people are able to do this is through I don't know, thinking through like their existence outside of what we traditionally understand as like gender and race and class. Like, I guess I'm trying to add to your point. You're like, but yeah, I'm also wondering, like, in what way do you also think that Black people are able to access a sort of post-humanist, information anarchist like way of being, given our like existence under oppression? I hope this is making sense, but I just wanted to add on that.
All of these questions are the same question, just from different facets. TikTok, I'm so sorry that you were looking at my face instead of me writing feverishly. But okay, so we have two questions and they're related. The first question is, how does posthumanism relate to information anarchy or potentially wisdom anarchy? And then the next question is, how do Black people or people that have been, I think that there are two kinds of distinctly not human: the people that are genocided slow to make sure that you can exploit them for labor, and the people like via slavery. So Black people as the blueprint, but that's a blueprint that continues to get copy pasted, right? And the people that are genocided fast so that they can get land stolen. This happened to, I mean, all colonized people that now have a colonized entity, particularly a Western superpower, or in the case of the so-called state of Israel, a want to be superpower, right? How do we even consider human and humanity? I think that Black people consider what is capital H human all the time, specifically because we are not that. Because human is a measurable thing. Building blocks of human include the ability to have attention, power, agency, support, resources, housing, food, ease, the idea of benevolence being ascribed to you. Okay, these things are human. These things are markers that you are human, and they have prerequisites based on gender, race, and class. Not all humans are created equal, but the idea of human, oh no, I have an eraser on. The idea of human is most definitely a thing, and it's a thing that you cannot be. So there's also, for your further learning pleasure, anti-humanism. I don't focus too much on the anti-work because I like to think about what I do want. However, that's why I think about posthumanism a lot, because I'm an Afro-pessimist to the day I die. I agree. Under these iterations of human, we're not that, we'll never be that. The reasons I think about it is because I'm thinking about what is beyond. Post, not even as an after, I mean post as in beyond. What is literally beyond all of this, because something is coming after this. The goal for me in thinking about what is and is not a human is not to think about what I do and do not have. It's to think about, how do I not think about human as these things? So if we're thinking about, then, how do we relate information anarchy to posthumanism? What's the relation here? There was a homie sounding it out earlier. Venus, I think. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Venus
Yes.
was sounding it out earlier. That's where we are right here. Well, I think these two things might be related: post in beyond, and humanism as in capital H human. So this is specifically right, white, land. I'm going to put owning in little scare quotations because I just don't believe you can own land, and I don't want to say it like I believe it. Male, straight, powerful, etc. I'm running out of room to write over there. But if we think about beyond, a strict departure from these systems, which conveniently is also a definition that came up in Anarchy a lot. If we think about beyond these systems that create and maintain capital H humanness, I think that this is happening because we have rights, quote unquote, based on worth, rights based on work. These building blocks of human, otherwise known as rights, human rights, quote unquote, are based upon worth. And you are worth these rights: attention, power, agency, support, resources, housing, food, clean water, breath. Somebody has said breath. You are afforded these rights based on gender, race, and class, right? Okay. So that was a big circle. We're back up here. We know what human is. We know we want to get beyond it. We know that we have departures from systems here. And that's a must. That sounds suspiciously like anarchy. So I'm back at this question that I asked us to hold on to. Could this be wisdom anarchy? And specifically for people that are subhuman always, what use is wisdom anarchy? Knowing in your body and sharing that information freely without access or without attachment to human ideas of capital. Could this be useful to us?
Yeah.
Make sense?
Could you write that down, that question?
Wait, could this be useful to us?
No, not that. What is wisdom anarchy? That question you were asking.
What is wisdom anarchy? Any takes?
Is it what we know within ourselves to be true or untrue, kind of going against the information we are given? Yeah.
Are we still holding on to the idea of true and untrue? And I'm asking. That isn't like a cheeky retort. I'm asking.
If what is
Are
true,
there multiple? So is true
I would
staying
wonder.
up here? I think so.
I would wonder. I would wonder if. Sorry. I would wonder if, okay, true versus untrue, or not even versus, but just like what is true, what is untrue, based on everything we've talked about. Is it like true is what is within you, what you feel, or is that too limited? And then untrue is what is like you are told to feel. But I don't mean like exclusively like emotions. Like I just mean like what you're told to feel. Yeah.
Can I also add the dual truths, I guess, between your perspective and your perception as truth, but also the collective narrative that ideally would be carefully constructed, but usually isn't, also as truth?
Mm-hmm.
I also want to add maybe to think of true and untrue as also maybe like affirming and erasure of your own existence.
Ooh, wait. I'm writing someone from TikTok. A result of what did you say?
Me?
Yeah.
I also want to think about
Just the
I
last
guess
part.
like the spectrum of like be it affirming to your own existence, or is it an erasure of your own existence within your own body?
Can you say it like a thesis statement?
I guess what wisdom anarchy is the feeling of having your existence be affirmed or be erased. And how you respond to that, I guess.
I want to add to that last bit, how you respond to that. I was going to phrase it as what you believe is true and untrue. It's completely biased based on perspective.
What ways can this be useful to us? What ways can wisdom anarchy be useful to us? So this is what is wisdom anarchy? And I think in answering its usefulness, we'll also find out a lot about what it is. Because you know a thing by its shape. Shape determines function. What use is wisdom anarchy? I'm going to put in specifically to the colonized.
Medicine.
What else?
Politic.
Sound.
Ooh.
Safety.
Like
first.
spirituality.
Okay. Any more?
Unity.
Oh. That means it's also collective by design, right?
Yeah.
Like inner guidance.
There are multiple collectives here that I'm seeing people reference and use. Like, oh, wait, actually, I moved too fast. Hold on. Oh my gosh, that was 10 minutes. Okay. I have to go now, but a question I want us to consider for your own time is who? Who is this useful to? I know I said the colonized, but let me tell you what. So many of these things were about divinities and collectives, a collective conscious, like something that we can't see. Here's a thesis that I'm working on. It's an essay that's going to be out this week because it has to be. It's that this is a thesis statement, and I'm chewing on it by way of an essay. I don't know if I agree with all the claims that I'm going to make yet, but I've been chewing on it. So this is quite a long document that we've made together about information anarchy. And in our postulating about what it is and what it could be and who it could be useful to and why, and how do we even begin to think about these things, we arrived at thinking about paths to God and inner guidance. Who is this kind of information useful to? And people are asking for me to share the notes. I can do that. I'm going to arrange the notes in a method that's more readable after the fact, because these are good notes these notes make sense if you were here when we took them. But if I were to like take screenshots of this to someone who did not attend this and is not going to have time to watch this would look nuts. So I'm going to arrange these notes in a way that's a lot cleaner than this. Does this make sense? Or if it don't make sense, does it make dollars? Do we feel like it's useful?
Absolutely. Please do post it if you can.
Yes.
This was fun. And this is way more fun than me reading an essay that I've already read, right?
Thank you so much for coming. It was great.
Yeah, you're welcome.